it looks like we are headed for some semblance of normalcy in the next few days, judging from what the Prime Minister said today and from the proposal made by the Bangkok administration to try to relieve some of the strict measures that have been imposed in the city. And it looks like many other provinces will also follow the footsteps and try to introduce some relaxations so that life could go back to normal, at least to some extent.
Shall we say this is the beginning of the end of COVID-19 in Thailand? I'm not sure whether we have arrived at that point yet, because according to the press briefing by CCSA spokesperson today, he still emphasized that things is not normal yet. And all the restrictive measures still have to be maintained, even though some part of it will be relaxed at some point. But yet again, we have been told that it's not normal, Kun Thepchai.
No, it's very usual now that every time that the spokesman, Dr. Tavisin, comes up with some good news, like the declining numbers of new infection cases, he would follow it up with caution, especially, warning us not to be too complacent and emphasizing that we have not yet really turned the corner. We have made progress, yes, but to say that we are there, no, it's still a long way off. Remember that last week he compared the fight against the virus to a boxing match, right? Boxing match, normally has at least 12 rounds, and yes, we are only in round 4, so we are not even half the way through yet.
That's right. So we still have to keep our guard high, but the number of new confirmed cases today is 2 days in a row, Kun Thepchai, that it's single digit. Today the new case is 7 and 2 more fatalities. So in terms of new cases, it's quite a good trend or good situation that it looks like that it's under control of COVID-19 pandemic in Thailand.
But what is quite worrying is the fact that one of the fatalities reported today was a businessman who was 52, and he reportedly contracted the virus while attending a meeting, a forum, recently. So it only goes to show how exposed we could be, any moment, anywhere. And as a warning from medical experts, has been, that is that the virus doesn't know boundaries, so it can strike you anywhere. So don't be too complacent. Don't think that you are in places that you are familiar with. You are among people that you know, you're familiar with, then you are safe. So that's not the case anymore.
No, we cannot underestimate the power of coronavirus that can affect and our body can be infected, and we cannot underestimate. And with the solution or with the measure that announced today that it has to be retained. So let's take a look of the restrictive measures that still have to be maintained in this situation. Particularly state of emergency is extended until 31st of May, Kun Thepchai. It means 1 more month of state of emergency in Thailand. And the curfew is all the same as well, from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. It has to be maintained. And the third point is strict control on foreign arrivals, because at this issue, we still have to be very wary of Thai returnees or foreign arrival who would like to return to Thailand. That is the point that we still have to be very careful. And the ban on non-essential inter-provincial travel and mass gatherings still have to remain as the tough measure right now.
So these 4 stringent measures still apply to all provinces nationwide. And these are 4 measures that the government insisted that it still need to keep. And that's why today, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha addressed a press conference by asking for understanding and sympathy from the public for the government's ongoing efforts to contain the virus. and he stressed the need for the state of emergency to continue to facilitate the government's fight against the epidemic. And he also pledged full support, for all government agencies to find ways to help all sectors of the public which are being affected by the outbreak. And he said that initially the government thought there would be only about 3 million people to be affected by the shutdown and needing help. But it turned out that as many as 16 million people are now in a dire state, plus another 10 million people in the agricultural sector that also need assistance. So he tried to paint a very broad picture of what the country is facing and stress the need for all these stringent measures to be maintained to make sure that the fight against the coronavirus will continue to be effective as it has been in the past few weeks.
At least twice that I heard him saying that he would like the Thai population to really understand what the government is doing. It's not easy task at all. And that's what the Prime Minister would like to see, sympathy from the Thai government to really understand how difficult it is for the government to handle the crisis of COVID-19.
That's right. I'm sure that he must have been hearing a lot of complaints from people who may not totally agree with all these stringent measures that the government has introduced. As we all know that many of the critics of the government, including opposition politicians, have been putting pressure on the government to lift the state of emergency and to ease all the stringent measures that have been imposed over the past 1 or 2 months. And so that's why today he made it a point that he wanted people to understand the need for these measures to continue to be in place.
Of course, it's not an easy solution. What's the direction to go next? Because if we just take a look at the new confirmed cases, people must presume that the situation is nearly back to normal. But if we take a look around other countries in the region, especially in Singapore and Japan, that's the two cases of example that we've been told many times already that we have to be careful. Otherwise, second wave of the pandemic may return to Thailand. That's why we need to keep the situation as it is. But economic activity and economic community has put pressure as well because people just like to go about and back to their normal life, especially in terms of economic activity. So that's the two dilemma that the government Prime Minister have to try to balance all the demand from different directions.
Now it's understanding why a lot of people are itching for a return to normalcy as soon as possible. We know that a lot of people have their livelihood affected or impacted by the coronavirus and the subsequent shutdown. So the sooner the better for them, to see life go back to normal. But of course, all these measures that have been in place so far have proven that because of these measures, that's why things have gotten to come where it is now, so where they are now. And so the government insists that these measures still need to be maintained. So let's take a look at. But the good news is that despite the state of emergency, despite the curfew that will be maintained, a lot of restrictions, especially for big cities like Bangkok, look likely to be eased over the next few days. Kun Natha.
That's right. So let's take a look of what are business activities that perhaps will be more relaxed in the next few days, especially in area of Bangkok. For example, restaurants, food shops and coffee shops, markets, wet markets, beauty and hair salons, and medical clinics. That are at least 4 types of activities, Kun Thepchai, which will be relaxed a bit.
Yeah. That's right, especially the eateries, the restaurants, food shops, and coffee shops. These places will be permitted to reopen for dine-in service. As we all know that the past 1 month we have seen people going to restaurants, food shops only to take out and for delivery. But this is the first time that people will be allowed to dine in these places, starting most likely next week if the proposal by the Bangkok administration is approved by the Disease Control Committee. But it's very important that these places must strictly apply social distancing measures. For example, in these places, there must be a space of at least 1.5 to 2 meters between clients, and all the diners must face the same direction. So these are some of the measures that the proprietors of these restaurants and food shops need to comply with to make sure that if things are back to normal for them, at least, I mean, to some extent, they will not they do not open themselves to the possibility of a return of the virus again.
Yes, and for another type of business, wet markets and market, which are so crucial for Thai lifestyle, Kuntep wet markets, it have to have some facility to protect between the vendor and the buyers and try to reduce the congestion of people who attend the market at one time. So in terms of traffic of people going to the wet market have to be changed as well to accommodate the situation of COVID-19. And beauty and hair salon, perhaps the seller, the owner of beauty and hair salon need to reorder the way they have customer, and they have to shorten the time length of each customer that they can spend in the beauty and hair salon at each time. Probably for each person, for each customer, they can go for about 2 hours maximum.
That's true. I think it's very important because I think both men and women in town are itching for haircut or hairdo now. And but unfortunately, the services to reopen for these beauty and hair salons will not be full blown. It will not be a total reopening because services will be limited to haircut, hair wash, and blow drying only. So
Yeah.
you cannot expect to have everything done the same way that you did before. And of course, hairdressers are required to wear face shields. So clients need to take notice. If your hairdressers do not do that, then you have to tell them to do so. Or if they don't, you can inform the authorities. And of course, they only serve customers by appointment only. So that means that there will be no waiting in the salons.
Yes.
And a break is required for every 2 hours for the interior of the salons to be sanitized. So a lot of conditions attached for the reopening of these places.
Yes, that's the best. We have to help each other at the moment to have some business activities to be back to near normal, because it cannot be normal as we know it. So let's take a look to other business activity and sport activities which can be back to some life. For example, golf courses, outdoor sports activity, pet grooming salons, and public parks.
So these are considered to be essential. I mean, at least these are things that people believe that in their daily life, I mean, active and on par with changes. So all sports centers run by the city will reopen, but team sports and body contact sports like football and basketball are still prohibited. But golf, tennis, badminton activities, I mean, sports like this, which are outdoors activities, will be allowed to resume. So it's good news for people who have been missing the exercise for the past 1 month.
Yes, so at least we will see business to be back to near normal or next new normal.